And you're good.
Welcome back to another riveting episode of Psych Thoughts. Today on Psych Thoughts, we're going to talk to you about boundaries. We've got our mask on, including Doug's new beard. It's a good look for him. As always, I'm Derek, and I'm with my best friend and colleague,
Doug.
Oh, you mean him. Sorry.
That's me. I look like Derek now.
Psych Thoughts, as you know, was always a call-in radio show, and now we are so honored that we have a wonderful TA who makes 4 choices. She signed up for us twice, and her name is Elaine. Elaine, say hi.
Hi. Not happening.
We're really working on that personality, aren't we? That's getting better every week. We hope you've enjoyed your first 2 episodes of Psych Thoughts. We hope you continue to subscribe to them, to like them, and to share them with people. If you don't like them, we don't like you, so move on with your life. Joining us for a 3rd week in a row, because she's that great, and because we love her that much, our wonderful colleague, our wonderful friend, Dr. Nicole Henniger. Dr. Henniger, how are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing good.
That's good. I'm realizing that on today's episode, we're going to talk about boundaries. Oh, you're a thumbs up. That's advanced Zoom right there.
What?
Today we're going to talk about boundaries. Don't forget, if you want to contact us, ask us any questions, you can always do that by emailing psychthoughts@tentech.edu, psychthoughts@tntech.edu. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/psychthoughts. And we're also on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget, you can find Doug on Tinder at desperatedoug.com. We have a Gmail. Elaine never got it to me last week, so it's something@gmail.com. That'll be great. It's probably Psych Thoughts Radio, but she's non-committal and pretty convinced she's still going to graduate, but we'll see what we can do about that.
I've only got
Did I miss anything,
a
Doug?
week.
All right. I'm not going anywhere. This is my first getting rid of the boundary. I can't do it anymore. I won't do it anymore. So I never thought this would be our reality. Mine is pretty stylish. It was made by a great friend of mine. She's a part of our house church group. But I would have never thought that I'd be wearing a mask. Turns out I have a face for a mask. It looks better with it on than it does off. Which is how it works. If you haven't watched our first 2 weeks worth of videos, please go back and watch those videos. The first one talks about anxiety and the pandemic. The second one is about adult things. And then this one, we're going to deal with boundaries. Dr. Henniger, thank you for joining us again. You must be pretty bored.
Well, I mean,
to keep
I can't go
coming
out,
on our show.
This is the highlight of my week. My whole week, not just the day.
Well, we're honored. We're excited. Doug, I liked you better with the beard.
It was itching. It itched my face. I don't
I
know.
have cream for that.
Actually, I'd like to recommend you go to Warlord Beard Oil, and you can get some nice beard oil that will make you feel silky smooth. This is a non-paid advertisement for Warlord Beard Oil, but it does work really well. I recommend the fragrance Southern Tobacco, as it is everyone's favorite fragrance. Look at that product placement.
So does it
Along
make
with your
beard
shirt?
smell like tobacco?
Do what?
Does it make your beard smell like tobacco?
If tobacco smells like heaven, then you better believe it.
All right.
So
It's okay.
on
You've convinced my husband
boundaries.
he wants some now.
Well, you can't go wrong with it, that's for sure. All right, power of boundaries. Doug, do you have your notes for the day prepared for us by our lovely
Yes,
intern?
they're right here on my phone.
So no.
I didn't even get to ask a question about last week's. I didn't know that there was a sexual thing about bees. See, I read it. Now everybody's going, I need to go back and watch that other video. So
So boundaries are one of those things that we usually teach as very, very healthy. Yet this might be the difference. What do you guys see the role of boundaries in the COVID-19 pandemic?
5 foot.
I think you're a foot short.
Oh, is it 6?
6 feet.
It's 6. It's 6 feet, or 3 of me, whichever comes first. That was a fun noise.
That's somebody calling me.
Always have your phone, just like the radio show.
Hey, they called the office, so I had to see who it was. Because I'm
Dr.
here.
Henniger, as a social psychologist, we're going to pick your brain frequently.
All right.
Maybe you've noticed.
That's what I'm here for.
I go to the store, and they've got these little things I have to stand on. And there's someone in front of me who's supposed to be standing on that thing also. The person behind me doesn't stand on that thing, and I want to strangle them until they're not breathing anymore. But a month ago, I didn't even care. Why? Why am I doing this?
Well, I mean, this is so as a society, of course, we form these rules to coordinate our actions with each other. And so you probably would have cared a month ago if they had gotten right up in your face, because in our society, that's not what distance is. There's actually differences as far as culture to culture in terms of what an acceptable distance between people is. And so it's funny if you get somebody from a closer distance culture and somebody from a farther distance culture, and you put them together, and the closer distance person tries to get closer, and then the farther distance person gets farther and farther, and so they'll like crawl their way around the room, each making the other uncomfortable, either by being too close or being too far. So we already have these social norms in place as far as distance goes, but now it's become where even our society, our distance, we need to get further. And so we have this rule where we're saying, okay, so now as a group, we're going to agree on this is the distance, but not everybody has updated their social norms to fit that for various reasons, right? Maybe not perceiving a threat there, maybe wanting to maintain control of themselves, so that individualism of what I think is what is important rather than what the collective needs. So yeah, it's interesting to see though, because you do, there's sort of an anger response almost to somebody breaking these rules, both because it's a threat to you individually, but also there's that feeling of just like, but also you're just breaking our group's rules, and that's not okay.
Yeah, and rules are meant to be followed. You need to follow the rules. It bothers me.
Yeah.
I'm a person who...
myself, I agree.
I'm a person who, like, if a stranger wants a hug, I'm good. Like, nothing normally. But I was running on the treadmill, which if you could see me from here down, you would think that was a lie. But that's pandemic body. That's a whole nother Derrick. I'll get back in shape when I can get outside some more. Okay, don't worry about it. But I was running on the treadmill, and I was there in Cookeville, and a student who had sent me an email that morning was at the gym. Doug knows this story. And I lost my mind, because what happened was he got on the treadmill with me and began to run behind me. I don't even know what to do with that, but it reminds me of how I feel in the grocery store now when people aren't 6 feet away. And it makes me sad, because I want to hug them, and I have to stay away from them. I also love mimesis. I love, and maybe Bandura would have called it reciprocal determinism, but when you smile at someone, they naturally smile back, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem, no one can see me smiling. So I do this. I say, which looks like I might have problems. I walk around the grocery store going, and it's just not helpful. This has to stop.
Well, the article that I sent all of you, that of course Doug hasn't read until the next show, talks about.
But to be fair, Elaine, he will ask a good question about the article next week.
Yeah, I'm
so
thinking
this is not the show on sex and boundary or pornography.
No.
and boundaries now. That's a whole different show.
I think you were thinking bonding.
Oh, okay.
But as far as like social media goes and our boundaries, because we don't get those same facial cues from people. And, you know, as Tyra Banks would say, you have to smize with your mask on for people to know you're smiling. But that's really hard when you can't see other people's faces. So it's really hard to gauge whether you're oversharing or undersharing, or if they even understand what you're saying at all, or if they're even listening.
Which is exciting as a faculty member, because now the whole world knows what it's like to stand in front of a class when they're just looking at you like, I need more information. And no. I'm sorry, Dr. Henniger, you were going to say something important.
No, I don't think I was. Like
Hey.
what Elaine was saying with the smizing is something. So, you know, we have different muscles in our face that communicate our expressions of emotion, and so there are these ones, you know, in our mouth that are really important. So, like smiling is the zygomaticus major, is this muscle here, or frowning, or, you know, pursing your lips. But also a lot of it is in our eyes. And so there is an extent to which you can just see eyes and know, okay, smizing, they're smiling, like, uh-oh, they're scowling, maybe they're not happy with me. There's a little sort of horseshoe that can form here that's pretty unique to sadness. But you can get that information, but when we're used to looking at the whole face, it's really difficult.
I'm also someone who, I don't struggle, like I have fine hearing, but I really rely on reading lips when people are talking. And with these masks on, I was at Walgreens, and the lady asked me a question, and it was in fine English, and it was of adequate volume, and I just like, what did you say? You know, like I can't interpret this new language, and it's like it's mask English. You know, I don't know what it is, but it throws us off. I think what I worry about is what happens if we get used to this. Like, what happens if this becomes the new normal moving forward? Can we survive without contact? You know, or is that even possible?
I mean, I guess if you look at some other cultures where contact is less normal, I mean, there's some other cultures where covering your face is the normal thing, or hiding some of those cues is normal, or not touching is normal. So we'll probably be okay, but it won't be the same society that we have now. Like, as individuals, our experiences will probably be okay once we get used to the change, but maybe there is something lost there.
That, or are we going to become like the opposite? Like, you know, how people that went through the Great Depression, they're more inclined to be hoarders because they did without for so long. Are we going to go for a while without human physical interaction, that we're going to even, I'm not a hugger, don't like it. But where I'm going to go around and start hugging everybody because I've been in my house with my dogs barking at me and, you know, traumatizing my husband for weeks, yet, you know, not anybody outside of the house to traumatize.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thought, kind of the other way. And if I already had virtually no boundaries, I'm worried about what I'm capable of. I don't want to go any further. So, Elaine, you said you're not a hugger. Like, is 6 feet about how far away you want to be from people anyway?
I think that's minimum.
Oh. Where do you stand, Doug? What's your
very close?
What's your normal
You know me,
distance?
I'm a touchy-feely kind of person. I'm a hugger. Even during lecture in a large auditorium, you know, I walk around and I'll stop and I'll touch a student on the shoulder and say something to them, you know, to pull them into the lecture. So it's a big change for me, you know, to know
and
that.
I do want to point out that since the lawsuit, we are really glad that you've moved to the shoulder.
Well, that was just hearsay. So. You know.
Well, the people
how
that
can
were here
200
said a
students
lot.
get that wrong?
Nicole, where do you stand on the boundary typically?
Like normal? No. They're like, don't even think about it. Like 3 feet, you know, far enough that you're not like spitting in their face, but you know, close enough to hear.
Close enough to spit on them if you need to.
Right, yeah.
But far
That's
enough.
an appropriate part of the communication of what I'm trying to say. I want the option.
My mother used to take me to the flea market. So make all your judgments you want right now. Doug, don't laugh. I know where you're from. I don't want to hear it.
Just the way you said it sounds like she took you there to trade you or sell
To
you.
trade you or sell you.
Well, and I'm still here. So obviously I was resilient. And I don't like that big of a crowd. I went to Mardi Gras one year, and it's shoulder to shoulder and just mass movement of people. That's not for me. But if it's someone I'm wanting to interact with, I tend to be closer. I went by to pick up my mask from my friend, and he met me outside in the driveway, and we both stood there like, this is weird. Because normally we would have shaken hands. You know, he's a patter, I'm a patter. It was just weird. The way it felt. It felt wrong. And I think the wrong came from just not being my normal or my typical.
Yeah, well, we've learned all these rules, these norms through our whole life of how to interact and what it means, what each individual action means. And now all of a sudden we have to change it all. And so all of our instincts don't work anymore for what's appropriate and what's not. Like being dropped in another culture, except that it's our culture. And so we don't have that external cue of I'm in a foreign country. This is not the same rules.
Yeah, I think of the male exchange of handshake. And there's a lot of pressure put on a handshake, whether we want to admit it or not. I mean, I guess there are some people out there, they're so woke they don't even have hands anymore. But when we shake, we make a judgment about that person. Like, why are you trying to break my hand? Or is that really a hand that I'm shaking? Like, and if I think of a culture where there's the dead fish is so mean to do to people. But if we're a culture that doesn't shake hands anymore, even that whole aspect of interview day. So our students who are going up for a job or maybe interviewing for a doc program somewhere, that's that icebreaker, that first thing. And I don't know, I like what you said. It's like we've been dropped into a different culture, but it's already ours, which I think we could probably then say, if you're struggling, you're like most of us, and that's okay. That's okay to struggle. Elaine, you printed out a lot of things. This is good.
Yeah, that's why the shows aren't long enough.
I was going to say, it's not just physical, I think, for the boundaries that we're dealing with, the issues right now, but there's also the personal boundaries, right? Like, I'm talking to you from my home right now, which, like, none of you have ever visited my house, right? So usually, like, there's a boundary between work and home that now is getting broken down a lot more, or the hours that I work. I would go onto campus, I would work my day, and then I would come home, and home is home. And now it's, wake up, get a snack, work for a while, like play with the dog, work for a while, go for a walk, work for a while, and then it's midnight, and then it's time to go to bed. And so there's not a boundary between what's home life and what's work life anymore.
I'd say this, but
go ahead, Doug.
Well, she has kept her life separate from us, but I always had a feeling she had doors in her house. Look at that.
There's a lot of doors.
Yeah. Don't you wonder where they go? They actually walk into each other. Like,
there'll be a tour.
Door, you would go into that, like, if you would come through that door.
Old screen.
Is this the experiment where we're going to have the clown or the gorilla walk behind her and see if anybody notices?
It's already happened.
Oh, I missed it. My bad.
This boundary is being blended in my life with my kids. So we have a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old. Sorry, we have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. Don't tell him I said that. And he's about to be 8. So I teach second grade in the mornings, and my wife teaches kindergarten. And the role blends between dad and teacher. Like, I just want to be there and love him and tell him I don't care if he knows math, that you don't need to know math to have my love. And at the same time, I have to be like, I mean, you kind of suck at math. So it's this, which is probably, it's me. He gets it from me, you know? It's another boundary that's breaking down. And I get that that's how parents have always been, but it is odd. You know, you're in my office. No one, I kind of feel like Sheldon from The Big Bang. No one comes to my room. You know, it's mine. I mean, everybody goes to Doug's house.
So,
Elaine, how has it been learning from home? Is it weird? Because when you're a student, those boundaries are more broken down already with studying kind of is an all the time thing. And
Yeah, I actually, again, because I'm so social, thought the Zoom thing would be really, really odd and hard to deal with because don't like people in my space, you know, even like this is kind of, at times it feels like an invasion of privacy because, you know, stuff that people that you know have never seen before, now they see, you know, they see the map behind my head or whatever. But like the classes that I've watched and the meetings that I have had with professors or other students, it's actually been kind of nice because you're in your comfortable space, they're in their comfortable space, but you still get to interact with them to a certain extent. So, I mean, I think there's positives and negatives to both. But, you know, the main problem is scheduling yourself and being responsible and everything else to make sure that, you know, you don't just put everything off to the last minute and procrastinate like I always do. You know, I have to make myself sit at the table and say, okay, you know, so I can imagine what the kids are going through with being homeschooled by mom and dad. You know, the only difference is my mom and dad or my teachers are on the computer. So if I don't want to see them, I don't have to open my computer, you know.
So is Doug your mother or am I your mother?
Well, I'm just not going to answer that, but the divorce has left me traumatized. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, but I think you are going to answer it. So which one of us is your mother?
go ahead and tell him it's him. It'll make him feel better.
I don't think it would make me feel better.
I just think that's a no-win situation for me.
But
so
I think you're more.
Just know.
I would say that you're more the mother, and I'm more the bad uncle that first gives you that first taste of alcohol and stuff.
That I might have to agree with to a certain extent.
I'm going to agree with that also.
Plus, he
Nicole, where do
was
you
the
stand?
only one grading me at this
sounds right
point.
to me.
I historically am very anti-social media. I don't have any. Psychthoughts is the only exposure I have to social media. That's why I don't know anything about it. I will say there is something to being able to interact with the three of you right now that it feels good. It doesn't feel like I want it to. It doesn't feel like we're sitting around in Matthew Daniels. It doesn't feel like that. So I don't think it's equitable, but it feels a lot better than an email. And it makes me wonder, am I texting people too much? Do I need to be calling them more than texting them? And as our boundaries go out further and further for safety reasons, I think I might have to make some changes with some conveniences that I've set in my life and maybe make that phone call instead of that text or send that letter instead of that email.
I don't remember. I think we were watching the news the other day. I think it was a day or two ago. And there's a program that Tennessee set up to where they can put you in contact with elderly people in a nursing home that you can call them, since I mean, nursing homes are horrible right now. And I don't know when this airs what the difference is going to be, but the elderly people don't have any contact right now with anybody. And of course, if their kids aren't used to, or their family aren't used to calling and everything else, then they're not getting any interaction with other people. But there's a program, I guess, that you can contact elderly people and actually just call them, just so they have that outside interaction. And, that might be a boundary that we have to release too, is contacting people we don't know to make sure they're okay, especially the elderly in this situation.
One of the things that
Dr. Henniger, go ahead, Doug.
One of the things that I noticed, we were talking about the change in how we do the distancing. When I teach group dynamics, we talk about that. We have our personal connections, like me and you and stuff. We'll stand about 3 foot. That's, we have that intimate relationship. Well, now we're told everybody that you have an intimate relationship with, that real well, now you're moving out to 6 foot where you would normally put strangers. Mm-hmm. And so now we're pushing that limit even farther out. And so, it is really messing us up as far as what's acceptable and what's not. As far as
that's Brofenberner's ecological model, right? So we have these microsystems, mesosystems, macrosystems. All of that's really being flipped over itself, which is, excellent point. Not that you don't always make excellent points, Doug. I didn't want to be condescending.
I've moved to coffee now.
Dr. Henniger, before Elaine yells at us, stop it, Elaine.
I was about to.
She was. I saw her doing it. Would like to give you the last thoughts on Psychthoughts.
Wow. Oh, no, there's so much pressure. I didn't know.
Yeah, no pressure.
She didn't prepare.
Don't worry,
for this award.
Elaine will cut you off.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think one thing is with kind of tying back to our previous show about putting pressure on ourselves and sort of not worrying about what's going on, is realizing that, everybody else is experiencing this too. This is odd for everybody, switching to these new norms and figuring out what does it mean. So I think my last word would be a word of encouragement of it's okay. It's okay that it's weird. It's okay that it feels wrong. Right? We're sort of set up to work automatically on the norms that we know, and those have all shifted. So now we can't just act automatically anymore, and that's hard, and it takes a lot more thought. It's a lot more stressful. So it's all right that that's happening.
And this is why we have guests, so that they can give you useful information while Doug and I continue in banter and try to pin Elaine down into who her mother is, and then by proxy, which one of us can then say, we are your daddy. Now, don't forget to follow us on something, the one thing, what is that? YouTube, that's it. Subscribe, get notifications, leave comments. If you don't like the show, don't watch the show. You don't have to. No one's making you. If they are, that's cruel and unusual, and that's against the Constitution. Please remember to ask us questions if you'd like to. That's psychthoughts@tntech.edu, psychthoughts@tentech.edu. We get those questions no matter what time it is. We'll drop a new episode every Wednesday at 1. Those diehard Psych Thought fans will remember that time slot, because that's the time slot of the radio show. Wednesdays at 1. I don't know when we'll be back in the Eagle's Nest. I don't know if we'll ever be back in the Eagle's Nest. But what I can say is that we're glad to be here. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Psychthoughts. Follow us on the Twitter. Follow us on the Instagram. Follow us in your car. Follow us. No. Sorry.
No, video now.
If you follow us from 6 feet apart.
There you go.
And not on the treadmill.
Dr. Henniger, thank you. No. Dr. Henniger, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you will be back. Me.
Please continue to work on getting our guests we discussed last week, and we hope to bring an update soon, which will be great. Elaine, believe it or not, we do love you. And we are so grateful that you've made this happen. From Psych Thoughts to you. See ya.
Bye.